Good afternoon and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. There's quite a bit of breaking Celtic transfer news this afternoon. One of them is one will get the Celtic fans, will they get excited or not? Or because a lot of us feel that Daisen Maeda has been playing with one eye looking at the next transfer window, but it's seemingly not. Daisen Maeda is seemingly willing to stay at Celtic until after the World Cup. Surprise, surprise, because if Dyson does go to the World Cup and he does get some game time, he will then have these pick of countries that he can go and play football in, and probably the pick of his teams. Stephen McCowan of the Herald says, well, Dyson Maeda has indicated his willingness to stay until the World Cup is over. The fact that Kelechi Iheanacho is out injured again, it does mean that he is the only striker that Celtic have of any kind of value. Will we be able to bring anyone in the next window? Another bit of Celtic news that we covered this morning. Celtic were linked with Leeds United goalkeeper, but it came out that this guy is on 20. He's only 25-year-old, but he's on 40 grand a week. There is absolutely no chance of Celtic bringing in, and if they do bring in a 25-year-old goalkeeper at 40 grand a week, what does it say to young Sinisalo, who's came to Celtic with the view of being first team keeper at Celtic? This is a very fluid situation, of course, because we don't know who the manager might be at the next transfer window if results do not go the right way, considering Wilfred Nancy is under a lot of pressure at Celtic, having lost his first 3 games. You just wonder who's actually making the decisions to bring in players. There's another player that Celtic have been linked with also during the summer, and it looks like that Celtic sent someone over to monitor the young player. But with the other names that have been mentioned, Club Brugge, Espanyol, there's no chance. Absolutely. So I'm not even going to give it airtime. But one of the funniest parts of it, there's another one with Inamura, and there's another update with Marcelo Saracchi also. But the Inamura looks like that he will be leaving the club at the next transfer window on loan with an option to buy. Inamura, you remember, was brought in, and he was a player that Brendan Rodgers said, you know, he's not even a Livingston standard player after the game that he played. But it looks like that he will be leaving the club in the next transfer window with an option to buy in the summer. But I think one of the big ones, the Saracchi one, seems to be interesting. News coming out of South America is that the reason that Saracchi was allowed to leave his club and sent out to Celtic is because he was troublesome in the changing room. Do you believe that? Is Marcelo Saracchi the type of player that you think, yeah, he may be a bit of trouble in the changing room? And what about Inamura, a player that had only been professional for 1 year before he came to Celtic? Has he been given a fair crack of the whip? Is he better than what we've got? Let's face it, he's back up to Kieran Tierney. He's back up to Marcelo Saracchi, who Celtic do have on loan. And we don't have an option to buy him. Maybe there is some kind of agreement that Celtic could get Saracchi at the end of the season. But one of the biggest and funniest parts of today, and I'm going to share the screen for this one, is mainstream media. Mainstream media having a bit of a meltdown about the fact that they do not get the privileges they once have as professional journalists. Boo fucking who. Maybe if you didn't tell so much lies about the club over the years, you might be a bit more respected. But, and you'll never get it, it's, yes, Tom English, that well commentated commentator that knows more about rugby than he does football. He's a rugby commentator. The day that he came into BBC Scotland, Radio Scotland, he should never have been allowed to commentate on Scottish football. Never mind be head of journalism when it comes to Scottish football. It's an absolute outrage. But he says that people are asking why journalists don't ask Michael Nicholson to explain what's going on at Celtic. There's been no opportunity to ask the questions, he says. In October, I messaged somebody in a routine question with an easy yes or no answer. I still haven't had the reply. And then Jim Delahunt, remember him? Oh, that's a name from bygone years, isn't it? Jim Delahunt pumps into the conversation and says, I suppose they knew that I had a huge audience every night at 6 o'clock. But during the McCann Dempsey takeover, they were all on the end of the phone. Those two, plus Farrell, Grant, White, Kelly, McGinn, every one of them, changed days indeed. Of course, it's changed days. And it's changed days where Celtic had the likes of McCann and Dempsey on the front doorsteps of Celtic Park, demanding, and it's something that I've said for about a week now, maybe a bit more than that, the Celtic collective need to start putting names forward of who are going to take over at Celtic Park, because unless they do, it's going to be Dermot Desmond that will decide ultimately who will be the next CEO, the next head of finance. And it's not what we really need at Celtic, is it? But then Tom English went on to say it's a different world, Jim. It's a different world, Jim. Yeah, these antique dinosaur journals have no place in Scottish football, and especially the narrative that they sometimes have against Celtic. And it goes, there should be more articles. This is a good one. There should be more articles in the press and in the media about this, similar to the Irish Independent one today when Desmond's harder to hide when you're in the spotlight. I doubt there's a CEO in the world of football who has spoken less than Nicholson. Yeah. Is that, it's a strange one because we all know that the reason that fan media, you have to look back historically back to the COVID years and understand the narrative on why Celtic brought in fan media. It was because the press weren't telling the complete truth about Celtic. They weren't giving out the exact details. They weren't giving out the full transcript of an interview. They were being very particular. And this is the same kind of mainstream media that, just talk a load of shite a lot of the time. But they have their place in the hierarchy of this whole thing that we call media. I'm glad I'm just a YouTuber. Anyway, tell me what you think about the transfers and what you think about Steve McCowan saying that Daiz Maeda could be here to the end of the season. Will that be good for Celtic, or is Daiz Maeda just taking the pure and utter piss out of Celtic because he knows that he will get a bigger wage if he does well at the World Cup? I don't even want to look forward to the World Cup. I want to look forward to the game tomorrow evening. There will be a watch along with the game tomorrow evening, hoping that Celtic can get back to winning ways. Because if we don't, it'll not be a case of make some noise for the boys. It'll be a case of let's just get to the front doors of Parkhead and get change brought in quicker than what we need it. Because at this point, we need it very quick. And give me your thoughts on who should be putting their names forward, what the Celtic fans collective can do to speed up this process, because the Not Another Penny campaign will be successful to a certain extent, but until we start putting names forward that can potentially take over from Dermot Desmond, nothing significant will change at Celtic. And that's the sad truth of the scenario. It may come the case that he may decide that whoever, someone will have to take the rap for this whole Wilfred Nancy thing if it does go tits up, which is looking like it may go tits up, especially when you look at the Celtic Twitter page. And it's not ideal, is it? It's not really ideal at all for Celtic Football Club to be going into this busy time. Celtic did put out the next match today. We're going to read some of the comments on this because this will give you an indication on. I know that a lot of people don't have Twitter, X as they now call it. I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't care. Next match Wednesday, 8 p.m. kickoff. Tannadice. I want every single one of your bank accounts investigated, you dirty shower of corrupt bar stewards. You're cooking the books. I don't think that they're cooking the books. I definitely do not think that they're cooking the books. I mean, they're putting out there. Look at the squad, you filthy, rotten, diabolical rodents. That has to be one of the And then he goes on. Um, he goes on and just and keeps on going on. You know what I mean? Sack the board for 90 minutes. Sing sack the board for 90 minutes. Who do we get in? We have to. It's like they said back in the 90s, you had people that were willing to step in. As much as I do want change and I want people gone from their positions at Celtic Park, because I do think that there are certain people that have overstayed their welcome by a number of years at Celtic at a higher level. But unless we have people that are of a decent calibre that's going to be brought in, all you're going to do is bring in Dermot's friends. And then there's quite a lot of media at centre, my that centre half, Bernardo up front, Casper in the centre mid, Ralston as a number 10, Nancy Ball. I'll give you that one, that's a good one. Happy birthday, Zach the Board. Not another penny campaign standing up. Celtic season ticket holder Jim Goodwin, make sure Nancy gets his first point. I don't think that Jim Goodwin's a Celtic season ticket holder, but then there you go. But as you can see, there's a lot of sack the board, forfeit the match, world class operation, we're told. Yeah, it was very unfortunate that he closed his eyes thinking, this fucking cunt better win. But you kind of get the where the squad is, don't you? Team and tactics already. Who's looking forward to the game tomorrow night? Make sure you join me 8 p.m. 8 p.m. tonight, Celtic part time, where we can talk about the game tomorrow night and talk about where we go from here as Celtic if we lose, because that is the scenario we are at the moment. If this manager goes on to lose 4 in a row, he thinks it's kind of acceptable and he's trusting the process. There's a rumour going around that the board have said change your tactics and win games or you're gone. And he said, well, if you don't like the way that I play football, maybe I'll just walk myself. If that's the case, slap the door on your way out.